According to the FBI, there were nearly 4,000 bank robberies and burglaries in the US last year alone. However, despite the frequency, it's rare that would-be bandits make off with much more than a few $1,000s before getting swiftly apprehended. Of course, there are exceptions. Here are 10 instances in which a combination of cunning, brute force, and luck have resulted in some truly astonishing heists. But before we jump into the video, if you're new to our channel, hit the subscribe button and join the family. Let's get on with it. Number 10. The Mona Lisa Heist. One theory suggests the thief was part of a large art theft ring, but new details paint a different picture. The prevailing theory was that he was just a small cog in a grand scheme to sell Mona Lisa forgeries to American millionaires. The theft of the real Mona Lisa was the only way to convince the buyers they were purchasing the real thing. Joe Medeiros, author of the documentary The Missing Piece, The Truth About the Man Who Stole the Mona Lisa, told Discovery News Perugia had moved to Paris in 1908 and had worked at the Louvre for some time. Dressed in a white smock worn by Louvre employees, he had hidden inside the gallery until it closed for the night. He then removed the painting from its frame and strolled out with it hidden under his smock when the museum opened as usual the following morning. Perugia believed that the painting had been stolen from Florence by Napoleon and that he simply was returning it to its true home in Italy. Much rejoicing accompanied Mona Lisa's return to Paris, while Perugia became something of a hero to the Italian people, receiving love letters and cakes from female fans whilst in prison. Comparatively speaking, $200,000 isn't a lot of money, but it's difficult to match the audacity of D.B Cooper. D.B hijacked a plane in 1971, claiming that he had a bomb in his briefcase. After receiving his money, he parachuted out over Washington State, and he was never found, making this case one of the greatest unsolved crimes of all time. The FBI learned of the crime in flight and immediately opened an extensive investigation that lasted many years. Calling it NORJAC for Northwest Hijacking, we interviewed hundreds of people, tracked leads across the nation, and scoured the aircraft for evidence. By the 5-year anniversary of the hijacking, the FBI considered more than 800 suspects and eliminated all but 2 dozens from consideration. And after years of dead-end leads, investigators received a break in 1980 when a boy found a decaying package containing $5,800. It was buried along the Columbia River north of Portland and some 20 miles from Ariel. The serial numbers of the money, all of which were $20 bills, matched those of the ransom. However, following an extensive search, nothing further was discovered. Although the FBI continued to receive tips, in 2016, the agency officially closed its investigation, stating that its resources could be best used in other cases. One of the most lucrative art robberies of all time was the 1995 theft at the Gardner Art Museum in Boston. 2 men in police uniforms pushed the museum buzzer, stated that they were responding to a disturbance, and requested to be let in. The guard on duty broke protocol and allowed them through the employee entrance. He and a second security guard were handcuffed and tied up in the basement of the museum. They escaped with 13 paintings, worth over nearly $500 million. The museum was equipped with motion detectors, so the thieves' movements were recorded. The return of the Gardner's work remains a top priority. The museum continues to actively investigate the theft and works in partnership with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. There is a $10 million reward for information leading directly to the recovery of all 13 works of art in good condition and a separate $100,000 reward for the Napoleonic finial. In 2008, 4 men dressed as women walked into the Harry Winston diamond store in Paris. Once inside, they threatened employees with a hand grenade. These men, known as the Pink Panthers, escaped with a whopping $108 million worth of jewelry. The gang members are believed to be ex-soldiers and extensive military and paramilitary backgrounds. They come from Serbia, Montenegro, and other former Yugoslavian states, remnants of the Bosnian War who have sought unconventional ways to make use of their hardened skills. There's no official information as to the exact number of members, but Interpol believes that the criminal network is made up of around 800 core participants, with an undetermined number comprising their extended international network. The gang has also been known to use attractive women in many of their operations, mostly during reconnaissance operations and as lookouts during raids. So the next time you see a pretty Serbian girl, you might want to think again. In 2003, a group of 5 thieves targeted the School of Turin at the Antwerp World Diamond Center. 3 years before the crime, the mastermind, Leonardo Nodar Bartolo, rented an office in the building, giving him 24 access. These thieves escaped with $100 million worth of uncut diamonds, gold, and other jewelry. The center housed hundreds of diamond traders, and the vault was a 2-story underground. The 3-block diamond district is said to have tight security with a patrol around the clock. The vault itself has 10 layers of security, Doppler radar, infrared heat detectors, a seismic sensor, a magnetic field, and a lock with millions of possible combinations. The police reportedly found some diamonds in Nodar Bartolo's apartment, among other evidences like cell phone records. No fingerprints were found in the vault. Nodar Bartolo got 10 years for orchestrating the theft, while the 3 other Italians, Elio De Honorio, Fernando Finotto, and Pietro Chavano, were sentenced to 5 years each. The 5th member was never caught. The Drumlanrig castle robbery of 2003 was a daring heist, involving 4 men posing as tourists, threatening the guards with an axe. They made off with the Leonardo da Vinci painting, Madonna of the Yarn Whiner, which is worth around $40 million, or £37 million. Drumlanrig Castle is the home of the Duke of Buccleuch, one of Scotland's wealthiest men. He has one of the finest private art collections in Britain, including works by Rembrandt and Holbein, but nothing as valuable as a stolen Renaissance painting. The theft was captured on CCTV, and the £37 million painting was recovered 3 months later by police posing as a Getty representative prepared to pay a £300,000 ransom. It was announced that the Madonna of the Yarn Whiner has been recovered, and the Scotsman can reveal that a lawyer working for one of the country's most successful and respected law firms was among 4 men arrested in 2007. Police said the 16th century painting, whose theft was regarded by the FBI as one of the world's 10 worst art crimes, was discovered following a raid in Glasgow. The 3 other men arrested were said to be from the Lancashire area. Another famous heist was the Great Train Robbery of 1963, perpetrated by a gang of 15 men who tampered with railway signals to stop a Royal Mail traveling post office train. They escaped with $74 million, most of which was never recovered. After tampering with the line-side signals in order to bring the train to a halt, the gang, led by Bruce Reynolds, attacked the train. With careful planning based on inside information from an individual known as the Ulsterman, the robbers escaped with the equivalent of £53.5 million today. The bulk of the stolen money was never recovered. Though the gang did not use any firearms, Jack Mills, the train driver, was beaten over the head with a metal bar. Mills' injuries were severe enough to end his career. After the robbery, the gang hid at Leather Slade Farm, and after the police found this hideout, incriminating evidence led to the eventual arrest and conviction of most of the gang. The ringleaders were sentenced to 30 years in jail. There is thought to be only one survivor of the gang, Bobby Welch. In 2005, a robbery of the Banco Central in Brazil was a classic heist, involving a complex scheme. A gang of thieves posing as landscapers rented a house 2 blocks from the bank, then dug a 255-foot underground tunnel. They broke into the vault on a Friday, but the theft wasn't discovered until the following Monday, when nearly $70 million turned up missing. Police estimated it had cost nearly $200,000 to construct, via basin secured to ropes squeaking through a pulley system, and 25 men would be involved. It would appear they thought of everything. Outside, police would later find a large amount of white powder, chalk the robbers had used to cover their fingerprints, and they nearly succeeded, except for one print, their first slip. The second mistake? A member of the gang bought 10 cars at once the next day, paying cash and raising red flags in the poor region of Brazil. Improbably, the police managed to catch him, and the nab man squealed, taking down the group. As with most heists, they'd had an inside man, a bank employee who had tipped them off to the location of motion sensors, alarms, and the fact that the cameras filmed but didn't record. The biggest shock, the mayor of Boa Viagem, a podunk town south of Fortaleza, was also in on it and had fronted some of the money to build the tunnel, which made the town an attractive hideout for many of the suspects. This robbery was masterminded by Alan Pace, who worked for Dunbar as a regional safety inspector. While on the job, Pace had time to photograph and examine the company's Los Angeles armored car depot. He recruited 5 of his childhood friends, and on the night of Friday, September the 12th, 1997, Pace used his keys to gain admittance to the facility. Once inside, they waited within the staff's cafeteria, ambushing the guards one by one. Pace knew that on Friday nights, the vault was left open. due to the large quantities of money being moved. Rushing the vault's guards, the robbers managed to subdue them before they could signal any alarms. In half an hour, the robbers had loaded millions of dollars into a waiting U-Haul. The police immediately realized it was an inside job and closely examined Pace, but couldn't find anything. Eventually, one of the gang members, Eugene Lamar Hill, erred when he gave a real estate broker's friend a stack of cash bound together with the original currency straps. Hill's friend went to the police. Arrested, Hill soon confessed and named his co-conspirators. Alan Pace was arrested and sentenced to 24 years in prison. Less than half of the money was ever recovered, with some $13.9 million still unaccounted for. And at number 1, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Though it didn't involve a huge amount of money, it's hard to beat the notoriety of our first heist. In 1889, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, with their gang known as the Wild Bunch, hijacked a Union Pacific train near Wilcox, Wyoming. By the time the dust settled, they had blown up several train cars and a bridge. They escaped with about $60,000 in cash and bonds. Most historians believe that Butch and Sundance died in a shootout in San Vicente, a town in Bolivia, across Argentina's northern border, where a patrol discovered them holed up in a rented hut. A gunfight ensued, ending when darkness fell. Later that night, the townspeople reported hearing screams and 2 shots. Damn, those were some real-life money heist situations. Comment your favorite one in the comment box and share your views. Until next time, have a nice day.